everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Surrounded by Love. I am your host, Danielle. Today is Tuesday, June the 2nd. And I'm just dropping in for a few moments. And I want to talk about not procrastinating. Yesterday, I sat and I watched the protests. I sat and I watched the news conferences. I sat and I listened to the excerpts of the governor's conference call with our president. Yesterday evening, I sat and I watched the protests that were being displayed on CNN from around the country. I watched protests and I watched bricks being in inconspicuous places and no one knows how they got there. I watched the looting. I watched peaceful protests, the crowds being attacked. I watched as the military was used against the citizens of the country. It was a lot. It was a lot. Yesterday just really took me back. I'm an 80s baby, straight up, 1980. I was not born in the 50s or the 60s. Being brought up in the 80s, we saw videos, we saw excerpts of news newscast of our foreparents, grandparents, some great grandparents being the water hoses turned on them and they were marching peacefully. The police beating them. They were marching peacefully. So yesterday, the scene that was shown outside of the White House, it was a peaceful protest. Like it was a peaceful gathering, and the military was used so the president could come out and go walk out of the front door of the White House to go to a church. I don't believe he's a member there or he frequents that often. And he stood in front of the church and he held up a Bible, and I think it was upside down. That's what people say. But he held up a Bible and he was asked if it was his. He said, "It's a Bible." And he took a picture. So tear gas was used to disperse the crowd. That was peaceful. And rubber bullets. Some people got trampled on, pushed down. And this morning, I know like the question is, you can sense it. It's like, well, why are you so upset? Why are you so angry? Why are you still so angry? And I think people have forgotten when certain citizens of the country stormed certain state capitals with their guns, they weren't met with the same force. It was quiet. It was peaceful. They were doing all the yelling, but they weren't. Rubber bullets was not deployed against them. Tear gas was not used on them at all. So I said all that to say we have to mobilize clearly. We have to do something. And it's not a time to sit back and be idle or complain or just yell, make a lot of noise, or walk around in t-shirts. I mean, if that's what you choose to do, that's fine. It is your choice. So I said that to say it's not the time to procrastinate. So yesterday I talked about registering to vote. We know we have a presidential election coming up in November, but I'm sure there are also other local elections that are coming up, some that may have been pushed back due to COVID-19. So this is the time for you to ask your family members, because normally they campaigns would have people on the ground, like going door to door to people's houses, like to get them to register to vote. So with COVID, that's probably going to change some of that, but you don't have to wait for that. That's something you can actually do on your own. I mean, you have your circle of influence, you have your realm of influence. You can ask your family members, your friends, even those that may follow you on social media. Ask them if they're registered to vote. If not, they can go to their state uh, or local offices at wherever they are may be located and register. What would be the point of waiting till November for you to be standing in line? And like I know they do here and all over the country, we've seen this before, like stay in line. And if they don't have you on the roll, and the reason being is probably because you haven't. You have to understand that when it comes to, I know here in Louisiana, for a presidential election, like if you haven't voted, like in probably, let's say, the elections people don't tend to vote in, like a city council, a school board, other like council members, judges, like those small elections that a lot of us or a majority of us tend to sit out because we feel like they don't matter, but those are the ones that really control your everyday circumstance and the experience that we have been experiencing all of this time. Those are really the officials that you really need to pay attention to. You need to do your research on whatever elections may be in your area and the candidates. Do your homework. Find out what they really stand for. You'll probably see some shift in people's beliefs or their platforms. Then you'll also see some change in what they plan to do when they get in office. But everybody has a track record. So do your research. You don't have to wait for people to give you information. If you're not working, if you're not out protesting, take this time out to educate yourself. It's not the time to sit around and complain. It's the time to, okay, let's put our heads together. Nobody has it all, but if we come together, we can come up with a strategy. So don't procrastinate. Don't wait until November to be in line and then come to find out you're not registered. That's something you can do now. And it doesn't take long. I mean, with technology, it's probably something you can do on the internet. If not, I'm more than sure those offices may be open, or maybe you can request it by mail, fill it out, send it back, call to make sure like they got it. There are things that you can do to make sure that you are on the voting rolls. If you're blessed to be in a state to where you can vote by mail, make sure that they have your current address if in case you've moved. Because we have to stay on top of it. We have to be ahead of the game. You can't come from behind. We have to be proactive and not always reactive. So those are simple things you can do. And another thing is, all of us need to come together. Like, this is not the time to be negative about everything. I know a lot of people are now becoming unglued because I think they're starting to hear the loudness of the anger of people that have been suffering injustice for so long. And it's starting to make others, it's like they're becoming unglued because they see chaos. But what we see is the hurt and the pain. It's like if you have a wound and it's not healed, and if you do something and like the scab that may form, but it doesn't mean that it's healed, because that means it's something deep down that is still in a process of healing. But if something were to happen and you peel it back, what's going to happen is going to bleed again. And that's what we are doing. It's like we're bleeding again. And so now you're starting to see people, well, what do you want out of the protests or the riots? What do we need to do, or what needs to happen so you can stop being angry? And I said that because that's something we encounter at work. Haven't you heard that before? You don't want to be portrayed as the angry black female, or you don't want to be the angry black male in a room. And I heard that today, and it wasn't from us. It came from one of our Caucasian sister or brothers, and I'm not gonna go into who. But when I heard it, I was like, wow, it actually came out. They don't like it because it makes them feel uneasy. And to me, I feel like the unease is due to the fact that deep down inside, you know something is wrong and you know it's not right. I've listened to some conversations, and I think the part of the issue is they don't understand because it's not their reality. It's not something that they live or will probably ever experience. Doesn't mean it's not true, but to sit up and question, well, what would it take? What do you expect out of this? That's the problem right there, because you don't think it's a problem because you yourself have never experienced it. So instead of getting defensive, like we're taught at work, like you can't be defensive. You know how you have been told you have to learn how to accept constructive criticism. See, it's easy when you can dish it out, but when it comes back, you become unglued. And the ungluing is, it needs to be shaken. It is a shaking going on because it needs to be shaken. It's called the truth. The truth comes and light is shed, not so you can be comfortable. It is to bring a change. So maybe some ideas and some practices, even in work settings, have to be revisited. Some light needs to be shed on some policies and procedures. Some sensitivity training clearly is probably need to be had by every major corporation in this country. Because some of the languages that have been used to blackball people, label people, limit them, that's a part of the problem too. It's just that now it's like everything is still and you actually see it and you hear it. And now you're starting to feel it. That's why some of you may feel uncomfortable because it's still. And then for others, it's a notion of, so things won't be the same. It's like a reckoning or an awakening, like, so what I had, I probably won't any longer. Like, it's not going to be the same. No, it's not. So it's a time for all of us, not just us to wake up to progress, but we all have to progress together. It's something that we have to do together, because change must come forth. And in order for that to happen, you need truth. You need light. You need to open up and be honest. And no, you may not understand. No, that may not be your reality, but just because it's not something you have experienced or it is not your reality does not mean it doesn't happen. It just didn't happen to you. So when someone has an experience and they're truthfully telling you, and yeah, they may be angry because they're hurt. Because if it was you, you would want somebody to listen. Just listen. If you don't understand, that's okay. Because you don't. It wasn't your experience. But listen. Be open to listen. And you have to be open to hear both sides. It's not a one-sided thing. It's a two-way conversation, and you have to practice, like some of us, all of that training that we receive called active listening. You need to use some of that. That's all I have to say for today. So you can like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Surrounded by Love. I'll see you all again on tomorrow. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is @D as in Danielle, Liz, Liz, Caesar, Ceaser. If you have any suggestions or any comments, you can email them to me at my email address, which is surroundedbylove20@gmail.com. Again, it is surroundedbylove20@gmail.com. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you all on tomorrow.